All right, rock and roll. Welcome one, welcome all to the Scorched Earth Political Podcast. I am your host, John. And if you could, hit that like and subscribe button. It means a lot to us. I hope you're having a good weekend. I hope the Christmas shopping isn't getting too out of control. Sit back, enjoy, because we got a podcast for you. Hey, also, feel free to drop something in the comments. I do take them very seriously, friend or foe. It doesn't really matter. I want to learn. I want us to learn. We are one love. We are one Scorched Earth. Let's get to it. Let's burn it all to the effing ground. And I want to do a mea culpa here. And for MAGA, that means an apology, a most sincere moment, just trying to help because you can't Google because you're too busy on your little conspiracy videos. That I've been really railing on the farmers and their welfare subsidized mouth that is on the government teat. And I got a comment today, and it was really, really heartfelt, and it was really sincere, and it was basically from a gentleman or a family that said, we have a small farm and we never see subsidies. And I will say this, I do generalize a lot. I do lump everything in together, and I do think that is a byproduct of the political environment. I want to say that not every Republican is MAGA, as we're going to have our lead story tonight, but not every farmer is getting a subsidy. Not everybody is a bad person. And I will say this, I think farm subsidies on a whole are a very good thing. I think they're a very productive thing. I do think the incredible cash bailout they are getting is welfare is good for us, but not for you. And that whole kind of mentality from an administration that cut 14 million people from SNAP in October, that cut 20 million people from Medicaid, is going to let ACA, government subsidized health credits, expire at the end of the month, and hey, go see your premiums double, triple, whatever. You know, socialism is socialism, and this is socialism. Okay, I'm cool. We want to play that game, let's do it. But let's paint the whole picture for everybody in this. Also, during this podcast, I'm going to be looking at notes because I got a lot of statistics here. I want them to be accurate. One thing I do try, and look, I'm a liberal. I'll own it. Yeah, I am looking at it from a progressive lens. I am looking at it from a lens of bettering all of society, not just ourselves, not just enriching our effing selves like the Republicans and the elitists do, but I do try and be as accurate as possible. Okay, do I make mistakes? If I do, I will own them. I will adjudicate. I will retract them in a comment or something else. But you can't expect me to be this good looking and have a memory. All right, let's get to it. So let's talk about the smoke show that Donald Trump dealt with this week. He went into Texas earlier this year, and he basically told his little cuckold, Greg Abbott, to redistrict so he could pick up 5 seats. As we all know, typically throughout the history of the last 50 years, the census at the beginning of each decade determines districts for the 10 years. Well, he decided because his policies were going to be so unpopular, so political tinder for his base, that he was going to redo it in 5 years so he could try and pick up those 5 seats. Greg Abbott couldn't get the wheelchair over there quick enough to sign the old law. Now we go to Indiana, and they tried to pick up 2, and in an amazing rebuke, excuse me, I'll learn English in the next episode. The Republicans, and this is a red state. This is a red state. And I will say this, I lived in the Midwest. I was in Kentucky, a neighbor of Indiana, and go Hoosiers. And I do believe there are still, even in this MAGA environment, very principled, very dedicated Republicans who do believe in the philosophies of like Ronald Reagan. The problem is we have seen way too many politicians in this era, under the tent or the guise of being a Republican, who have sold their soul for access to power because Donald Trump is a populist president who has no policies, has no core, has no belief, and literally he is transactional, enriching himself, enriching his friends, whatever. Well, they thought they were going to pick up 2 seats, and boy, he got smacked in the face. I mean, wow, this was great theater. He actually started earlier this week posting, as they were getting ready for the Senate vote on the redistricting, that he was going to stop all federal aid to the state of Indiana for hospitals, roads, infrastructure services if they did not allow the redistricting to pick up the other 2 seats. There's 9 congressional seats in Indiana. 7 of them currently are Republican. He wanted to pick up the other 2. Now, it was so intense, he actually told JD Vacation not to go on vacation and go to the state to visit to drum up support for the redistricting plan twice. They would have asked Mike Pence, but he decided not to hang around. Yeah, I just said that. That literally is going to be the best joke I tell for 10 years. Okay? If you get it, you get it. If you don't, you don't. I get it. Let's move on. But Don Jr. actually has been tweeting for the last 2 weeks saying that if any Republicans oppose the redistricting, he would go over there and campaign against them. He said he would be a constant force in the state of Indiana. I can tell you that's welcome news to the cocaine dealers in the state of Indiana. Bulk up, get a lot of supply, because somebody's going to be knocking at your door, all right? So I'm going to talk about Indiana State Senator. Her name is Jean Leasing. She's 76, and she has been in the Indiana State Senate since 1989. She's been a state senator. For 4 of those years, she was actually in the majority whip, which is basically the majority leader's right-hand person. From everything I did on researching her, she has been a very thoughtful, a very measured Republican. Look, I don't have to agree with the policies, but truth is truth. Honor is honor. Character is character. This lady seems to have it. Here's the story I'm going to tell you. As the weeks started ratcheting up, now this lady is 76, okay? And man, obviously this lady is kind of like my mom. She's formidable, right? As the weeks started ratcheting up and the administration started to increase pressure on Indiana to redistrict, she has a grandson. For the last 2 weeks, he has been getting hateful and mean and, I'm going to put this word out here, threatening text to get his grandma to change her vote. Yeah, let that sink in. That is what MAGA is. That is what Trump is. You know, when he talks about rhetoric and political violence, he literally is sicking the attack dogs on one of his own. This lady's grandkid, who is not in politics, is getting messages. Now, you think she's the only Republican whose family members got targeted through threats, innuendo, messaging, maybe even bribes? Come on. Do you really think it's past the Republicans to offer bribes to one of their own to get what they want? Hey, how you doing over there, Qatar? Yeah, right? So obviously, and I want to really dig into this for a second. Districting was very unpopular in Indiana. Let's go back in the time capsule to July when Texas decided to redistrict, and basically they wanted to call a quick House session and they wanted to get it passed into law, and then Greg Abbott would sign it. And then the Democrats fled to Illinois, California, whatever. Finally, they got coerced to come back. They got their vote. They got everything. But what's changed from Texas to Indiana? Well, we've had 4 or 5 special elections. And basically, except for one in a very deep red district in Tennessee, the Republicans have got smoked in every one. In New Jersey, in Virginia, Miami, first non-Republican mayor in almost 30 years. Georgia, not exactly a liberal stronghold. A district that Trump won by 12 points in 2024 flipped to a Democrat. I think they are seeing the polling. And I want to believe that they're principled, But also they realized Donald Trump is becoming a political liability. Let's talk about that little affordability conference he had in Pennsylvania the other day. 300 people showed up. We go back 1 year, he was filling airplane hangars with fans. Now it's 300 people. And then for an hour, he mocks the affordability crisis. Look, I can give you statistics each and every day. But like my producer said, I go to the store, it's $80 for 2 bags of groceries. I'm literally losing a bag of groceries every 6 months. I put that in. The producer didn't say that. All right. But so the difference between Texas and Indiana from July to December, they are reading the tea leaves. They are seeing the tracking polls. And I've talked to people inside that world. I'm not really aligned. I'm here scorched earth. I'm a voice for us. But I was talking to, when I had that interview with the person running for congressional seat 23 a couple weeks ago, they had a pollster there and they were saying the tracking numbers in the Republican Party are at all-time lows. He said that their numbers are lower than in 2008 when George Bush was crashing the economy ahead of the election of Barack Obama. You know, going into that election, John McCain and Barack Obama were going right there, tooth and nail. And then everything started to collapse in August. September, everything was going off the rails. And John McCain, he was like a deer in the headlights. He had no chance. He actually paused his campaign to go back to the Senate to craft financial legislation to save our economy. I love you, John McCain. I love you for your vote on the ACA. You were an honorable man. I disagree with 99%, but that is the kind of Republican I'm talking about in Indiana. I'm not talking about one who's sucking up for the devices of power and the benefits of power. I'm talking about somebody who actually cares about America. We can have differing views, but as long as America goes forward, not into the pocket of the elitist billionaires that the Trump administration so fondly embraces each and every day. All right. Let's get to the medical update of the week. And who thought there is so much medical news going on, it makes me want to vomit. Let's talk about the measles outbreak real quickly. It was one of our biggest shows. I appreciate all the support the other day in South Carolina, Arizona, Utah. Now, the anti-vaxxers want to go out there and just bang the drum. We believe in medical freedom. We saw a YouTube or a TikTok video from some guy who said he knows a guy who says you don't have to get it. I don't know what's in the COVID-19 vaccine, whatever. And then it just kept trickling down. The moment of demarcation was when Donald Trump almost died from COVID, was in Walter Reed, was in very precarious physical condition, basically survived because he had access to the greatest medical care in the world. He gets on the helicopter, he lands on the South Lawn, and do you remember? He ripped off the mask and threw it on the ground. That was the beginning of the end, right? I also had a story last week talking about vitamin K, which is a vitamin that they give to newborns because they don't have the coagulants to form clotting so they don't bleed to death. In 2020, that number was 2.9%. Today, it is 5.2% of parents who have decided they are not going to give the vitamin K shot to their kid because they don't see kids bleeding. The reason you don't see kids bleeding is because there is caring, understanding, informed parents who understands how dangerous this could be. Now we're back at measles, right? And fun stats. This is why I got to look at the thing. Stay with me. The United States had 1,912 measles cases in 2025. It's the worst number, the highest number since 1992. In the year 2000, the United States, through a very fervent vaccination program, officially eliminated measles. I've had this quandary. I've had this debate with many of the MAGAs. Let me help you here. Official eradication of any disease It is when it is less than 1%. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean the virus isn't still out there somewhere, but it is in less than 1% of the populace. And in the year 2000, the actual number was 0.4. Now, that's still a huge number. For argument's sake, in a country of 300 million, 0.4% is about 1.2 million. So there's still people, but it doesn't get any traction because it's so few of people when the virus does, quote unquote, release, get out there, it's dealing with people who have actually been vaccinated, who have a preventative system that stops it in its tracks. It's kind of like a fire break, right? That is what the medical freedom people are relying on each and every day, right? They want us to be the fire break so they can live their careless and uncaring lifestyle and endanger everybody the F they want, right? So, more great stats. 10 states achieved a 95% mRNA vaccination benchmark in 2024-2025 school year. That is from the great Joe Biden. That is down from 20 states in 2020. So literally in 5 years for the schools, we're talking about school kids because they can track the vaccination rates. It's went down 50% in 5 years of the number of kids who had 95% of the kids had the vaccination. We have 50 states. Now we only have 10 that have an actual medical sanctioned, whatever the actual term is, okay, of eliminating measles in their state. 95%. Wow, it's going great. So today, we're going to get off measles there. But these are the same people who inhabit this administration. I call him Hannibal Lecter. You probably know him by the name of Robert Kennedy. Okay? And I wonder in heaven or wherever he is what his dad is thinking about the legacy of his inept, incompetent, worm-brained son is doing. He is filtered into the CDC, HHS, the FDA, all of his sycophants. Well, today, and Robert Kennedy, before he became in this administration, called the COVID-19 vaccine the deadliest vaccine in the history of vaccines. Okay, so you know, and then because he said that, Donald Trump said, yeah, we're going to let you run the healthcare in this, the health policies in this country. Brilliant on brilliant. You guys keep working on that Tylenol. I'm sure it's really going to come up. So today it was unveiled that the FDA is now going to put a black box warning on all COVID-19 shots. Now, what the hell is a black box warning? I literally thought that was a new Michael Mann movie. What it is, this is the label that's coming with it. It's life-threatening, can result in death, or disabling reactions. Okay. We lost 1.5 million people in the United States in the first 30 months. We lost our average rate at 50,000. You want to disagree with those numbers? F you. I do my research. You're not including the rest homes. You're not including the nursing homes. Let's move on. Okay? 50,000 a month were dying. The vaccine came, started to gain traction because of the great Joe Biden. Let's give credit where credit's due. Donald Trump did get the implementation, the actual vaccine. Operation Warp Speed. Kudos to you, sir. But Joe Biden is the one who rolled it out. If you remember correctly, everybody in Trump's first administration went on camera and got the vaccine. Donald Trump, the chicken S he is, wouldn't. He got it behind closed doors. He got it. He wouldn't acknowledge it until Bob Woodward got it out of him later. But he got it in the Oval Office. Right. Real brave man. Real macho. Yeah, go ahead and hit another Venezuelan fishing boat there, buddy. But here is the other ones currently by the FDA that have a black box warning. Opioids. And what they put on there is it can lead to abuse, addiction, and potentially lose your life. Okay, that makes sense. We're putting COVID-19 into that, a disease that was so deadly. We were losing 50,000 people. We lose 5,000 now. So in that span of 30 months, we lost 50,000 people a month. In 2024 and 2025, we lose 5,000. It's still a huge number. Make no equivocation, but it is literally 90% less than at its height. What happened? Did COVID decide to take a vacation like JD Vacation? No. The vaccinations by great Americans like yourself made that firewall. And then you get the lazy, inconsiderate, and murderous MAGA or anti-vaxxers, let's just call them anti-vaxxers, who decide they're not going to do it. Also, here's some more black box warnings. Acne medication Accutane, and it's for, their only warning is for possible birth defects during pregnancy. Okay, I appreciate that. That sounds like a really smart medical and scientific rendering. Also, there's ACAM 2000. It's a smallpox and mpox vaccine, and it can actually, and this is what it says, it can cause complications such as heart inflammation and encephalitis. Sounds excellent, okay? But it's very, 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 very small segment of the populace that is taking that vaccine. Let's read it again, what they are going to put on the label on the box of every COVID-19 vaccine. Life-threatening, can result in death or disabling reactions. Wow, that's really specific. Like, you're looking at it, and how is that not going to stop people from getting boosters? And if I will say this, because I love you all, please think about getting your booster. This thing is still out there. Even though it's only $5,000 a month, it's still a significant number, and I need you all. Believe me, we are one love, we are one scorched earth. Let's go back also in this week where the FDA has made this decision under the infamous Hannibal Lecter, obviously Robert Kennedy. We have had the most exhaustive a study done by French scientists and doctors, and it was a 4-year study. They literally went through the records of 22.7 million vaccinated residents, patients, 5.9 million unvaxxed, and it was over 28 million. I'm adding it up for the people who do the MAGA mathematics. Here's what they found. Those receiving the vax did not have an increase in mortality. It's going to even get better here. The vaxxed have a 74% lower risk of death from severe COVID. All right? Also, there's a 25% lower chance of death overall. Here's where it got really interesting, and it didn't make the headlines. The people who typically get vaccinated are 45 and over. The ones who don't are literally 45 and less. The 45 and over demographic has more medical problems. Okay? It's part of the game of getting old, right? Things start to become more vulnerable. You know, your body basically is decaying. Okay, I'm trying to be as eloquent as I can. I don't want to anger the ducks. Okay, but what it is telling you is, even though you're in a higher mortality rate, being 45 and over, and the mortality rate in 45 and over is twice as likely as 45 and under. Okay, that you still have a 25% chance less percentage chance of dying overall. Forget COVID, just dying overall. So what they're trying to decide and trying to figure out through science, not some YouTube video, is what is also in this vaccine that is increasing the longevity and lifespan of these people who take it. They don't know yet. They actually do science. We don't just all watch TikTok videos, okay? Here's also some stunning things that came out, that people who are vaccinated have a 15% less likely chance to be diagnosed with cancer. That stunned me because, as you obviously figured out, over 45, you have a more likely chance of getting cancer and contracting cancer than if you're under 45. The numbers are stunning about how effective this vaccine. And look, I wish Donald Trump would just tell the vaxxers, this is nonsense. This is a good thing. Take the credit. As far as I'm concerned, give him the Nobel Peace Prize for it, for medicine. I don't care, whatever you want to do. But man, people need to start understanding vaccines are real. They are beneficial to our society. We don't need to be going through the swine flu epidemic again of 1918. Also, as we've talked about, they're older, they're more vulnerable, but their life expectancy is so much better. Kudos to you. Little fun fact, when Robert Kennedy was finally confirmed as secretary, one of the first things he did is they cut $2.5 billion in cancer research, and they ended all the long-term efficacy studies of the COVID virus. Wow. Wonder why? Maybe because he saw the data of, wow, this thing actually worked. It was actually beneficial, and it saves 45,000 people each and every month in the United States. Unbelievable. That is the administration we're dealing with. You know, I love being an American. I love being aligned with you. But some days I feel like the Ducks got it figured out. They got it all figured out because you know what? They don't have the stupidest people leading them. The smartest do. We're talking about Joe Biden. We're talking about Barack Obama. Yeah, there you go. Also, as a fun little side note, the Epstein files had a little release today. I'm going to start digging into it. But the Democrats released a lot of the pictures. And we have pictures of Donald Trump with Jeffrey Epstein, with 6 young girls. Girls. I have always made that mistake. Girls whose faces were redacted. And they have the Hawaiian lei around them. And, the White House immediately came out and said, oh, this is political positioning. They're targeting. Well, they also released pictures of Bill Clinton with Jeffrey Epstein. We saw Steve Bannon, and that was kind of the surprise one, right? That ugly mofo. Yeah. Like literally, that guy was in the Epstein orbit. Wow. No wonder him and Trump are such buddies. The rapists, the pedophiles, the sexual assaulters, like the Ducks. They all seem to just hang out together. Yeah, what a coincidence. But then the White House immediately comes out and says, this is the Democrats. It's a hit job. Well, if that was a hit job, why would they release the pictures of Clinton? That's one of our guys, right? And as far as I'm concerned, and I've heard this from all the liberals, is we don't care. We're just against pedophilia. We're against rape. Yeah, we're against sexual assault. We're not sitting here equivocating what your political party is. If you're Prince Andrew, if you're Bill Clinton, and you're a pedophile. You're a rapist. Sorry, there's just no other way to say it. And look, I appreciated what Bill Clinton was. I thought he was a great president. But you know what? I have a very hard time separating the man now from the policies. And I remember Al Michaels. He's a great sportscaster. And I remember back in the day when OJ was caught up in the murder of Nicole Simpson and Ron Brown. And as the trial was going on, they asked Al, who was a very good friend of OJ, and they said, are you still friends? And he goes, no. He goes, because I didn't know this guy. He goes, I can't separate the guy I hung out with for 20 years from the guy who murdered 2 human beings. And look, if Bill Clinton is in these files, and if we find out he was doing this Epstein, Trump, O'Bannon stuff with young girls, as far as I'm concerned, you can throw them all in jail and throw away the key. Kind of like over there in Colorado, let's segue as we get out of here, Tina Peters. She was one of the patriots, the MAGA patriots, who in 2020 believed that nonsense about the 2020 election being rigged. Funny fact, in the 5 years since, we have not seen any Republican entity bring in evidence to a court of law that shows there was any election rigging. There actually was, but it was all on the Republican side after they got smoked by the great Joe Biden in the 2020 election that they had to figure out ways to try and turn back the clock. You remember Donald Trump's call to the election officials and the government officials in the great state of Georgia. Just find me 10,000 votes. Yeah. Why don't you find a soul? We'll do that when you find a soul in the heart. Yeah. Well, still waiting on that one. But in Colorado, Tina Peters, she really took it a little far. Colorado went for Joe Biden in 2020, and she impersonated election officials, state officials. She was convicted of 3 felonies, a multitude of misdemeanors too, got 9 years. Now, the administration has been trying, these were state charges, has been trying vehemently to get her transferred to federal prison. Well, the governor of Colorado is a Democrat, so he's not as stupid as the Republicans. He goes, nah, we're cool. We'll keep her. We'll keep her on our dime. Because they know the second that she goes to federal prison, they're going to release her. You know, Ghislaine Maxwell Light, right? How long till she gets her pardon? So Donald Trump's been pushing and pushing on the governor of Colorado, and today he gave her an official federal pardon. Oh, God, this guy can't get any stupider. I mean, really, it is amazing that he can breathe and walk simultaneously. Fun fact, he can't use federal pardon powers to pardon somebody on a state criminal charge. So it seems like little Tina Peters, she got a little piece of paper saying she got the federal pardon, but she's going to do 9 more years in prison. Hope you enjoy cleaning bathrooms and eating SOS in the prison cafeteria, Tina Peters. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas. All right, that's it from the Scorched Earth. Like I said, hit the like and subscribe button. We appreciate you. Have a good holiday. Please be safe. I love y'all, and we'll see you soon on the Scorched Earth Political Podcast.